Okay, welcome to our next operation with polynomials, and we're going to be doing division of polynomials. And division of polynomials is probably one of those things that you have not covered a lot of, but we actually use it a lot when we are doing our higher order of polynomials and graphing, like our x3s, our x4s, and so forth on that. So you do need to have a good understanding of division. So there are several different ways we're going to talk about determining whether or not something will divide into a polynomial. If you'll remember back when you were maybe in grade school, you learned rules for dividing of your numbers, like if a number ends in 0 or 5, it's divisible by 5. If it ends in an even number, it's divisible by 2. You may or may not remember that if you add up the numbers and they are divisible by 3, then the whole number is divisible by 3. In other words, if you have the number 27, that adds up to 9. 9 is divisible by 3. Therefore, 3 will go into 27. That's a very easy number, but you could do bigger numbers. So it's kind of that same way here. So we're going to start talking about the first one, which is called synthetic substitution. And we've actually seen this before. We're just calling it something different and going to kind of look at it in a different way. So synthetic substitution basically is just like what it sounds. It is just a substitution of a number into your polynomial. And so what makes it important, though, is if when I substitute it in, okay, if when I substitute it into my f of x or g of x or whatever happens to be, if it equals 0, then that means that it is a factor of. Now remember what factors are. Factors are numbers that go into your number. Okay, so in other words, if I have the number 24, then factors of 24 would be 2 and 12, 3 and 8, 4 and 6. Those are all factors of 24, and I guess I should have put 1 and 24 in there also. So those are what we call factors. Those are numbers that we can multiply, and they will go into 24. So if you are doing synthetic substitution and you get 0 as an answer, then that means that will divide into your polynomial. If f of x is not 0, okay, then that means it's not a factor. Okay, it's pretty easy. But what it does give you, and we'll talk more about this later on, what it does give you is a point on your graph. Okay, that's kind of your x and y point. So we're just going to do some examples. You've seen this one before, number 1, where it has g of x equals x squared minus 3 plus x. Find g of 3. And g of 3, then we know, is just 3 squared minus 3 plus 3. We've already tested over there. 3 squared would be 9, and then minus 3 and plus 3, that's pretty easy. So g of 3 is 9. What that means is that 3 is not a factor, okay? 3 is not a factor, okay? And we're just going to do a couple more. And so another way you might see it is if it just says n equals a negative 3. So that's another way of looking at it. We've done that before also. And so, whoops, sorry, I don't know what I just did there. But we're going to do f of a negative 3. And so and be careful with that negative. So it's negative of a negative 3 cubed minus 4 times a negative 3 squared minus 6 times a negative 3 minus 14. And again, I'm just going to simplify that. So a negative 3 cubed would be a negative 27, and then there's a negative out in front, which is going to make it a positive 27. Next one, a negative 3 squared would be 9. 9 times 4 would be 36, and it's negative. Negative 3 and a negative 6 would be a plus 18, and then minus 14. And so in this case, when I add those together, I am going to get, what is it, negative 5, I think. I might ought to run that in my calculator, but just doing it in my head here. So we could, and again, you're welcome to run those in your calculator on there. So we've got 27 minus 36 plus 18. Let's see how close I came, minus 14. Yep, -5. And so again, what that means is that a -3 is not a factor, okay? Not a factor. But what it would mean is on my graph, a -3, -5 would be a point on my graph. We talked about that earlier on when we did functions, that we can write it as a point, okay? Now, here's just another one real quick. F of 2, -5 times 2 cubed. Now remember, guys, the rule, if you substitute in a negative, you've got to put parentheses around it. You noticed over here, every time I substituted in, I put those parentheses there. Do not forget that. That is a key on doing these. So let's see if we can do this one here. So 2 cubed is 8 times 5. That would be a -40. And that would be a +40. So that's pretty good. Those already zero out. And that's a +6 minus 11 halves. And 11 halves is what, 5 1/2? So that's going to give me a 1/2 left over. So again, that's not a factor. Okay? So those are just some ways to determine. So things that we've already did, we're just going to use them to do division and to see if those are factors. In other words, do we even want to divide that, you know, because is it going to give us anything? And those would not. Okay. And we'll come back and talk about more about those. So the next one I'm going to talk about is when you divide a polynomial by a monomial. So let's talk about that. And several ways you could do this, but I think the easiest way here would be to write each one of these as a fraction divided by your monomial. So monomials, I feel, are easier done this way. But I will show you another way. Okay? And now we're just going to, again, use our quotient rule. So 30 divided by 6, that's just numbers. That's 5. B cubed and B cubed, that's going to cancel. I'm done. 18 divided by 6 is 3. I have a b squared and a b cubed on the bottom. And again, that's going to give me a b on the bottom. And again, one of the ways I like thinking of this is I have 2 on the top, I have 3 on the bottom. That means that I have 1 extra on the bottom. Okay, that's my way of thinking of it. And then here, 6 divided by 6 is 1. And b 1 over b cubed, again, I have 1 extra, or 2 extra b's on the bottom, okay? And that would be my answer, okay? So if it's divided by a monomial, that I feel is the easiest way. But let me show you another way, okay? And that is doing our regular long division, okay? And we'll see if you can follow me through this one, okay? So what would I need to multiply 10 by to get 30? Well, that's easy. That's 3. What do I need to multiply b by to get b cubed? And that would be a b squared. Okay? So 3b squared times 10b would be 30b cubed. And remember, we subtract at this point. There's nothing left over. So I bring down my next set of numbers. And 10 times what is 30? So that again would be a 3. B times what is b squared? And that would be a b. Okay, I'm going to multiply, and that gives me 30b squared. Again, those are going to zero out. And I'm bringing down my next one, which is 2b. And what do I need to multiply 10 by to get 2? Okay, and if you think about it, it's 1/5, right? And what do I need to multiply b by to get b? And that's nothing. I already have it. Okay, and so that would just be 1/5, and that would be your answer. Okay? Now, again, you can decide which way you like best. I definitely think how I did number 4 is easier. You can do that pretty quick. Okay. So we'll do one more along with these. So this one says state if the binomial is a factor of the given polynomial. So that's, again, kind of referring back to what I talked about earlier, but it's given it to you as a binomial, okay? If it gives it to you as a binomial, like this, guys, what you're actually going to do is you're going to set that equal to 0 and x equals 6, okay? So really what I'm wanting you to do is f of 6, okay? Do you see what I did? So it's what makes that a 0. So that would be 6, and so I'm going to do f of 6. So it's always the opposite of what's in here, okay? And so then I would go back into my problem, and I would put in that 6. And again, I'm going to work that out just like what I did in problems 1 through 3. Okay, so let me just grab my calculator again. And that would be this is 1,944, and you guys can double check my work. And that is 1,944. Again, those are going to cancel, minus 3, and so that would be a negative 3. So f of 6 is a negative 3. Again, what that means, when x is 6, y is a negative 3, and that is not a factor, okay? Because again, remember, if it's a factor, we're wanting it to equal 0, okay? So that is the first part of division.